just go ahead. I want to thank everybody for signing on to this webinar. We've got a really wonderful presenter today. We've got Kevin Sloan. He's been with the SBA for about 8 years, and he is out of our Fort Worth office. And he is an expert in the Hubzone program that he will be covering with us today. Kevin's also a veteran of the United States Air Force. And we just exchanged a few stories about my dad was an Air Force vet as well. So I think you're going to be in wonderful hands, and this is a very interesting program. I'm Tim Holtkamp with the SBDC. We also have Jason Ayler with the SBDC. We're kind of hosting this in the Central Texas area. Our regional service center covers everything south of Fort Worth, north of Austin for the most part, but I don't want to, you guys didn't come to find out about us, you came to find out about Hubzone, so I'm going to hand you on off to Kevin right now. Thank you, sir.
Very good, Tim, and thank you for the warm introduction, sir. I really appreciate that, and hello to everyone that's on the call today, and even for those that may be coming on just a little bit later on. Yes, as Tim has just articulated, I'm Kevin Sloan. I'm with the U.S. Small Business Administration. Our SBA district office for the Dallas area, if you will, covers 72 counties in the state of Texas. So that reach is pretty far reaching, if you will, or net, I should say. And today's presentation will be an overview, if you will, from an outreach perspective about the Hubzone program. Okay, I do want to, as Tim alluded to earlier, I do want to make sure that I'm sensitive to you guys' time and what have you. So the duration of this call is going to be right about an hour. And again, that will be subject to your questions and or comments. What I would like to do, even though that we're kind of doing this virtually, I would like to try to keep it interactive, but I do understand that, you know, we are, you know, somewhat on a time constraint. So if you have questions and or comments, just please, if you can put those in the chat session, and then we'll make sure we try to get the answer for you before we conclude with today's presentation. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right on into this. And the purpose again is to talk to you a little bit about the Hubzone programs. Many of you probably already know about it, and that's a great thing. And for those that don't know about it, or it's a refresher to you, okay, just look at it from that standpoint. But I definitely want to just kind of just share with you on today the SBA Hubzone program from the federal government perspective, okay? Just make sure that I can be able to move forward with my slides here. So bear with me here real quick. Okay, there we go. All right, it looks like it might be just a little delay in terms of moving on to the next slide. Nonetheless, okay, Hubzone, which stands for Historically Underutilized Business Zone, okay? The key things that we want to kind of grab from that in terms of that of the Hubzone program is the ability to be able to stimulate capital investment, build capacity and grow your business, and then more importantly, access Hubzone set-aside contracting dollars, okay? And let me just do a pause here just for a moment here. What I do want to make crystal clear to everybody that's on the call today, that the federal Hubzone program is different from the state hub, okay? Do keep that in mind, okay? So everything that I'm communicating to you today about is going to be from the federal government perspective, okay? Now, with the state hub, which is almost identical or mimics the federal Hubzone, but the distinction is that I'm speaking to you from the federal government perspective, okay? So there is no restrictions, folks, in terms of applying for the Texas hub or any other state hub, okay? As well as the federal Hubzone program, okay? So you have that ability to do just that, okay? But again, strictly talking to you from the federal government standpoint with regards to our Hubzone program, okay? That's exclusive to the SBA. Okay. All right, the Hubzone program purpose, obviously, you know, this is just kind of like the background information, if you will, pertaining to the Hubzone program. As I stated to you, that acronym, obviously in the government, we use a lot of acronyms, so I try my very best to make sure that I explain what these acronyms are. Okay, and again, historically underutilized business zone. That's what Hubzone stands for, and it was established in 1997. So, folks, we're coming up on almost 25 years, a quarter of a century. Okay, that being next year, that the federal Hubzone program has been in existence, if you will. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of these things, and this is kind of like what we kind of talked about from the previous slide, just a little bit more from a narrative perspective, if you will. Okay, federal agencies set aside contracts for Hubzone certified small businesses. Small businesses invest in and hire from qualified hub zones. Okay, and these communities are distressed communities or underserved communities that benefit from job opportunities and investments. And so, as you can see depicted there on the right, you see how each of these touch one another. Okay, they're interconnected, if you will. Okay, the federal agency. Okay, the small business owners such as yourself, and then of course the Hubzone program itself in terms of the community. Okay, they all touch with one another, and they all need to connect in order for it to be successful with regards to the Hubzone program. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds of it until such time that if you have a desire to go after participation into the federal Hubzone program. But I just want to just kind of give you an overview pertaining to the Hubzone program, and even more so is that we want to put the spotlight, if you will, with regards to the federal Hubzone program. I got some slides that are going to be coming up, talking to you or making mention, if you will, in terms of that has not always been the case. Okay, and I'm just being forthright with you from a transparent standpoint. With regards to the federal Hubzone. So we are in a position now that we're trying to really champion the Hubzone program, okay? And again, as I stated earlier, therefore too often there's a lot of folks that are out there, their general sense or understanding is from the state hub program, where they didn't have very much information pertaining to the federal Hubzone. So that is for what today's presentation is simply all about, is to just get the word out about the federal Hubzone program. It is a federal program, okay? And typically on federal programs, you're usually going to have the higher dollar amounts when it comes to contracts, okay? With regards to that. So that's a little bit more information that that me sharing that, but I just thought it was important that I kind of, highlight that information with regards to the federal Hubzone program, okay? All righty. Again, just continuing on with the purpose behind the Hubzone program, okay? The Hubzone program provides federal contracting assistance to firms such as your companies, okay, or those that have a desire to enter into entrepreneurship or a business owner, okay? Again, just kind of just restating what from some previous slides that we had here, but I just want to just kind of drive home that point, if you will. The Hubzone program provides the increased community employment opportunities. It stimulates community capital investment and, of course, empower communities through economic leveraging. Okay, one of the crux pieces of the Hubzone program is designating where your business is located, okay? As you can see depicted there, there's an interactive map that the SBA uses, okay, to determine whether or not you are in your company, your business is in a designated Hubzone area, okay? It's critically important, folks, that before you decide that, hey, listen, I think I want to give this Hubzone certification a run, if you will. Make sure that you go and verify that your principal office, okay, is in a designated Hubzone area. And how do you determine it? You determine that based upon the interactive map that you see there with regards to the URL or the website, if you will. This is where you go to determine whether or not your place of business is in a designated Hubzone area. Okay, this is not based upon what you might see with your naked eye or what have you, or this community has to be in a designated Hubzone area. Let's know definitively, okay? Let's know definitively by going to this interactive map that you see depicted there, and it will let you know whether or not if that particular address, zip code, or whatever the case may be is in a designated Hubzone area. It takes all the guesswork out. You don't have to worry about scratching your head or guessing whether or not it's in a designated Hubzone area. So the importance here is just to make sure that you double check that in the interactive map to determine whether your place of business is in a Hubzone area. That also includes your employees, which we're going to talk about coming up here in a few moments, okay? Also, just wanted to just kind of give you the disclaimer there at the bottom there, or the last bullet. It says all Hubzone maps are frozen through June of 2023 and will now be updated every 5 years. Okay. Now, I just updated this slide because we had just got some new information fresh off the press, if you will, with regards to the Hubzone maps being frozen. Initially, before I made that change, they were frozen until the end of this year, calendar year 2021. Okay, we just got information a little less than a month ago that it is now being considered. Now, this is not has been set in stone yet or as a law yet. Right now, it's with the Federal Register, and it's open for open comments until the 4th, I believe, the 4th of June, to elicit comments pertaining to that. But the effort is out there to get the extension out to June of 2023. And the premises behind that is because it's based upon the delayed response to the 2020 census. Okay, I'm sure you're well aware that, you know, census usually take place every 10 years or so, but obviously because we find ourselves right dead in the midst of this pandemic, that has delayed the census from being taking place like it would normally take place. So with that being said, the SBA has adopted, and right now it is up for Federal Register before it becomes law. 9 times out of 10, it's going to probably become law, but it is open for open comments, okay? And right now it is scheduled to go for June of 2023 unless something else changes between now and June 4th, okay? So do keep that in mind. And this is a good thing because based upon the interactive maps, okay, again, it's going to let you know one way or another definitively that whether or not your place of business is in a designated Hubzone area, okay? And also, this allows where it's not so fluid or it's constantly changing, so we can be able to establish, you know, potential businesses, Hubzone businesses, you know, the ability where it's just not constantly changing. And as it stated there, it now, once it does go into effect, it becomes active again and not frozen again. It will be updated every 5 years to just kind of build a continuity there, if you will, okay? So kind of keep that in mind. But first and foremost, if you do decide to come into the federal Hubzone program, make sure you go to that interactive map to determine whether or not it is in a designated Hubzone area. Okay. All righty. Just like any federal government program, okay, and even as well as state programs, okay, there are contracting goals that we have to find ourselves that we have to mandate and meet, if you will. The SBA is no different from that. Just like any other federal agency that's in the federal government, if you will, pertaining to anything that's contract related, okay? And let me just also just share with you just real quickly here, the SBA is not a contracting agency. I need you guys to hear me clearly on that, folks, okay? The SBA do not issue contracts, nor do we terminate contracts, okay? Now, how we're introduced to the contracting arena is through the virtue or the vehicle or window, however you describe it, is through our certification program. That is the vehicle, okay, to the contracting arena or procurement arena, okay, and those are used synonymously, okay. But for the purpose of what we're speaking about here on today, we're going to be strictly just drawing your attention to the Hubzone, as you can see depicted here on the slide there in the bottom right, okay. And so we have a 3% mandated goal that we need to meet in terms of contracting goals for our Hubzone program. Okay, and I got a slide that's going to be coming up and kind of give you a report card in terms of how we've been doing for the last few years, if you will. Okay, so kind of give you a snapshot of what that looks like. The other information that you see here depicted on the slide, this is from other certifications that the SBA is involved in. Okay, and you can see the percentages that is allotted or mandated that we must meet for those certification programs. Okay, I simply put that information on here just for FYI purposes, but again, we're strictly, for today's purposes, we're strictly speaking about the Hubzone, and so we have a 3% mandated contracting goal that we must adhere to. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. Also, too, these percentages is not indicative from you as the business owner. It's more or less internally for the federal agencies. Okay, so you don't need to be concerned with these percentages. But again, from a transparent standpoint, I just want to just make sure you be aware of those, and just in terms of the contracting goals that we must adhere to, if you will. Okay. The Hubzone program design, okay, SBA regulates and implements the Hubzone program by determining which businesses are eligible, okay? And we got slides coming up that's going to speak to you about in terms of how you can become eligible and the requirements to get into the Hubzone program. Okay, maintaining a listing of qualified Hubzone firms to fulfill procurement opportunities. Remember, as I shared with you, procurement opportunities that are not issued by the SBA, but by other federal agency that has contracting component tied to it. Okay, adjudicating protest of eligibility regarding Hubzone contracts. Okay, that's the design of the Hubzone program. That's what the SBA will be administering. Okay. Obviously, with any program that's out there, it is not remiss without if it didn't have any challenges. So we're no different, okay? And which is hence also a part of the broadcasting, or if you will, campaigning this Hubzone program. But again, from a transparent standpoint, I wanted to identify some of the challenges that we have encountered, okay? And folks, I just wanted to just let this be made known to you guys so you can kind of understand, you know, some of the reasons and some of the challenges that have taken place up to this point. Okay, so I'm not going to read through all of these, but I just want to kind of depict some of these, and just in terms of where we've been at in terms of trying to get more notice on this federal Hubzone program. Okay, but I do want to draw your attention to the second bullet there, or second main bullet there, with regards to many federal agencies were unable. Notice the words that I said, many federal agencies. So it's just not with the SBA. Okay, there's other federal agencies that has the Hubzone criteria tied to their portfolio that they must meet this 3% threshold, and just about nearly all of them have had challenges to include the SBA in meeting a 3% goal. One might say 3% seems very doable. Yes, it does seem very doable, but it has been a challenge for us, as well as other federal agencies meeting that 3% threshold. One might say, what is the reasoning behind that? As I've already shared with you guys, and that is that I believe that the messaging, we have to do a better job in messaging, okay, and touting and champion the Hubzone program. That's first and foremost, okay? Knowledge is power, okay? And what we found out is that a lot of folks were not aware of the Hubzone program. Oftentimes they mixed it up, and I don't want to use the word confused, but they thought when you said the hub, they were speaking about from a state perspective. But no, that is not the case. Okay, you have it at the state level as well as you have it at the federal government level. So I wanted to hone in from the federal government standpoint, which was the reason why we put in place with regards to doing a presentation to give more notoriety to or champion the federal Hubzone program. So again, folks, as it states there for the second bullet there, there's other federal agencies that are having challenge in meeting that 3% threshold, okay? I hope that by the time we finish up on today's presentation that they can kind of garner some interest there with you pertaining to that federal Hubzone program, okay? And again, I know I'm kind of doing, it's kind of like a one-way talk here, if you will, but if you got any questions and or comments, please put those in the chat queue, and we'll make sure we get those answered, you know, right before we finish up, okay? So again, these are some of the challenges that we are faced with. And when I say we, the Hubzone program itself, okay? And so, again, I'm not going to read all of these, but you kind of see from your vantage point, hopefully you can see from your vantage point, some of the challenges that the Hubzone program has encountered and is still encountering, okay? Here are some Hubzone program improvements, okay, based upon those challenges that was from the previous screen that we're doing. And right now, folks, and again, just being forthright with you, the Hubzone program is going through a rebranding, if you will, okay, with regards to that. So as you can see, denoted there, effective in 2020, which was last year, the Hubzone program started expanding and securing its footprint, okay? We were not always present, as I shared with you earlier, even though we cover 72 counties, but you know, Hubzone was not a main focus out of that. And so we want to, as an agency, I can't speak for all other agencies, but for the SBA, we needed to expand our footprint. Okay, and so some of the improvements, I think, is going to do just that. Okay, and again, I won't be able to highlight on every single one of them, but I will source you to the main landing page for the Hubzone program. Well, it talks about it in great detail from a comprehensive standpoint of all the new improvements as well as the challenges pertaining to the Hubzone program. And again, these became effective in 2020, and this is a work in progress. So this is not set in stone. So if we need to pivot, we will, you know, we're in a position to do just that as well. Okay, stabilizing eligibility by eliminating or reducing restricted requirements to encourage small business to participation and investment in communities. I think there's a narrative that's out there with regards to anything. When you're dealing with the government, you're thinking that it's a lot of bureaucracy, it's a lot of red tape, a lot of hoops you got to jump through. But I want to share with you, at least for the Hubzone program, and then for a number of other certification programs under the SBA, we've come to a streamlining process, if you will. And I will welcome you to circle back to that wagon, and where you will see that process now is considerably streamlined compared to what it has been in the past. Okay, so we heard the arguments, we heard the concerns from our constituents or potential participants. Okay, and so we put those things in place, and hopefully we will see that yield some good fruit for us at the end with regards to streamlining that process and reducing those redundancies, if you will. Okay, and then our final bullet here, or the third bullet here, in improving customer service. That's big. That's big in any program that's out there. You want to have great customer service. Okay, a great customer experience. Okay, and as it states there, by accelerating and streamlining the application and recertification process to make it easier for small business to attain and maintain. Keyword is also to maintain their eligibility. Okay. So those are some of the improvements. Okay, that's not an exhaustive list, but again, I will point you to our main website, and I'll provide that website if you don't know it already. I'll provide that before we end our session here on today. Okay, the Hubzone program benefits coming into the program if you have a desire to do just that. The government is mandated, as I already shared with you from the previous slide. We are mandated to award 3% of all prime contracted dollars to Hubzone certified firms. Okay, 3%. Okay, not everybody's going to have a Hubzone certification. So that puts you in a smaller pool, which greater increases your opportunity for those that have a desire to come into the federal Hubzone. Okay, you will not be competing against the masses. You will only be competing against those that are like-minded and that are Hubzone certified, just like how you are, if you have a desire to come into the Hubzone program. Okay, other benefits. Contracting mechanism, contract set aside, which is what I just alluded to. Okay, they are strictly set aside for Hubzone participants. Okay, sole source awards. Okay, sole source awards are based upon a certain dollar threshold. Okay, and as it stands right now, if you didn't know that the dollar threshold for sole source awards is up to $4.5 million. Okay, that are direct awarded to Hubzone participants at that 3% mandated contracting goal. Okay, and then our final bullet there for contracting mechanism It's an application of a 10% price evaluation preferential treatment in full and open competition. Now, that would not apply to sole source because those are direct awards. Okay, but if you're looking at a contract out there that is got a contract out there in full and open competition, there is a 10% price preferential that is awarded, if you will, and it only applies to large businesses. But even with that being said, there is an incentive, okay, for large businesses to be able to partake into the Hubzone program, okay, that gives them a 10% price evaluation preferential that's applied, okay? So kind of keep that in mind. And again, these are not all the benefits, okay, but I just want to highlight these with regards to the benefits of being in the Hubzone program, okay? Hubzone eligibility requirements. Okay, how do I get into the Hubzone program? Okay, Mr. Sloan, he's sparking somewhat of an interest. I hope I am sparking somewhat of an interest to this program. But just like in any program, there's requirements that you have to meet. Okay, to come into the program, and so here they are, folks. Okay, so you must be small according to the small business. Okay, your business must be small. Okay, and how do you determine that your business is a small business according to the SBA? There's a repository or a portal that you would use, okay, and I'll provide that to you also at the end to determine whether or not your business, your place of business is a small business, okay? And that's based upon what it is that you're presenting to the business sector, okay? That could be in the form of a service and or a good, meaning a product that you're manufacturing, okay? And you will go to this portal to determine what your NAICS code is, okay? And NAICS code stands for North American Industrial Classification System. Hopefully you know what your NAICS codes are, okay? If you're operating in business as we're speaking right now, okay? But again, you can determine whether or not you're a small business based upon your NAICS code and based upon the portal that you will go to determine whether or not you're a small business according to the SBA. Okay, bullet number 2, your business must be owned at least by 51% or higher. That's the threshold. Okay, unconditional. Okay, owning your business. Okay, and then bullet number 3, and bullet number 4, which is going to be the crux of the eligibility requirement for the Hubzone program, your principal office must be in a designated Hubzone area, okay? We've already talked to you about how you can determine whether or not your place of business is in a Hubzone area, okay? You view that through the interactive map, okay? And then our final bullet there, 35% of your employees must reside or live in a designated Hubzone area, okay? Okay, and your employees can be where the place of business is. We don't care about that from the SBA perspective as long as it's in a designated Hubzone area. Okay, that's what we look at. Okay, and so also too, let me just back up just real quickly here, back up to bullet number 3 with regards to your principal office. Your principal office needs to be a brick and mortar structure. Okay, folks, it cannot be anything on wheels. Okay, so kind of understand that from that standpoint, that it needs to be a brick and mortar structure. Now, your residence counts as a principal office, so that would count because we get it and we understand that a lot of businesses start out in their home, just as long as your home is in a designated Hubzone area. Okay, so I just want to kind of highlight that. And again, there's the principal office cannot be anything that's mobile or anything on wheel. It needs to be a brick and mortar structure. Okay, and I think you can kind of follow me in the reason why behind that, because anyone can just come and set up shop in a designated Hubzone area that's mobile. Okay, and claim Hubzone status, okay, because their principal office is in a designated Hubzone area. So obviously, the SBA got wind of that, and so that's the very reason why they came in and changed that requirement to ensure that it's a brick and mortar structure. Okay. And again, that's just some FYI information there to share with you with regards to the principal office. Okay, and the numbers on the employees, that 35%, they're firm on those numbers, folks. So there's really no wiggle room on that. Okay. 35% of your employees. Now you can count as an employee as well, you as the owner. Okay, just so long as that you reside in a designated Hubzone area. Okay, and again, principal office and the 35% of your employee, that's kind of like the crux of the requirements for the Hubzone program. Okay. Okay. Additional information, just kind of re-emphasizing from the previous slide here, where I was speaking about the eligibility requirements. And again, I'm just kind of highlighting. I'm not going to go through that, but I do want to draw your attention to the note that is depicted at the bottom of the slide there. And it speaks about Hubzone is a qualified census tract. Okay. And what do we mean by that, Mr. Sloan? Yes, the SBA has an interactive map that you can go to determine whether or not your place of business and or your employees resides in a designated Hubzone area. But the SBA does not put the designated areas, what is deemed to be a designated area, in place. The federal agency that does that is the Bureau of Census. Okay, so what happens is that the Bureau of Census is the one that determines what areas are considered to be designated Hubzone areas. And the SBA simply follows up behind it and adhere to what the Bureau of Census has put in place. Okay, so again, if the argument comes up and say, wait a minute, how come 50 yards or 20 feet away, how come that area is not considered a designated Hubzone area? Okay, that complaint is not with the SBA. That will be with the Bureau of Census. Okay, the SBA is simply adhering to what the Bureau of Census has put in place with regarding to what is considered to be a designated Hubzone area. Okay, and remember what I shared with you, to take all the guesswork out, go to the interactive map. Okay, to get a definitive answer, okay, with regards to that. But again, the Bureau of Census is the one that's kind of quarterbacking, if you will. Well, not kind of. They are quarterbacking what is considered to be a designated Hubzone area, and the SBA is simply adhering to what they put in place. Okay, so again, any complaints or gripes or whatever, it's not with the SBA. That will be with the Bureau of Census. Okay, and also keep in mind, behind the Hubzone program, remember on previous slides, the Hubzone program helps the local community. Okay, so it's a good thing when you find when a community is no longer considered underserved or undercapitalized. Okay, so you can see how that community can be able to thrive as well. Okay, and so there are at times that a certain community that may have been designated Hubzone, that at some point they may not be considered Hubzone because of the revitalization of the Hubzone program that allowed them to not to continue to be in the Hubzone area. Okay, so I would not review that as a negative, but as a positive, because it's helping that deserving community out where they're no longer in an underserved capacity, if you will. Okay. All right, you remember I shared with you just a few moments ago, this is a report card in terms of how our agency, that being the SBA, has fared for the last few years with regards to the certification programs that we offer and administer. Okay, I don't want to bore you with the top portion on here, but I do want to just draw you to line item where it speaks about the Hubzone. Remember what I shared with you, the mandated goal is 3%. Okay, you can see in FY 2019 and FY 2018, we did not hit the mark, folks. Okay, however, but the plus side of that, we still in 2019 as well as in 2018, we still put Hubzone contract in dollars that was expended or dispersed out at 11.4 billion with a B billion. Respectively for 2019, and then almost 10 billion in 2018. Okay, and also too, just as a FYI, the federal government does not operate on a calendar year. We operate on a fiscal year. So what I mean by that is that our fiscal year runs 1 October to 30 September. Okay, so the information that you see depicted here, yes, it is from years in the past, and we're waiting for the data to come out for FY20. And even though we're in FY21 now, but because of the pandemic, we're still waiting for that data to be reflected. But nonetheless, I think you kind of get a general idea in terms of how we fared over the last few years with regards to the Hubzone program. The other information on here that I recorded or reported, that again, that's just for FYI to kind of give you an idea of the other certifications that we're involved in, and then a report card, if you will, in terms of how we've been faring those as well. Again, folks, we as an agency and as other federal agencies that are participating in the Hubzone program, we have to do a better job in messaging and getting the word out about the Hubzone program. Okay, and so again, platforms like what we're doing here today, we're hoping that that will yield positive for us in terms of getting more notoriety and champion this Hubzone program, because it is a federal program. Because what we don't want to do either, we do not want to see the program go away altogether. Okay, that doesn't help you as a small business owner, because that's an opportunity for a contract. It doesn't help the deserving community. Okay, so they lose out on that as well. And then likewise for the federal government. Okay, obviously for every program that we put out there, we want to see the success of it. Okay, with regards to that. So again, I don't want to be on the soapbox here, but I want to just kind of drive home that, man, we're really trying as an agency within the federal government to get more messaging and highlighting the Hubzone program. Okay. All right, this is kind of some data here that has been captured from the last few fiscal years with regards to the number of firms that we've had that has participated in the Hubzone program. Okay, kind of give you again a flavor. But one thing that I do want to just share with you, you can see here, even, I mean, going all the way back to FY 2014, that's a number of years, folks, that you can see here. And I don't know if you can see from your vantage point where my cursor is at, 3%. Remember, 3% is the mandated goal. These have been dismal, which goes to percentages, okay? And it's been going on for far too long. And so I can tell you that this is a high visibility program at this point, for the benefit of it, you know, resurrecting, if you will, and getting to it where it can meet or exceed the percentages, that 3% with regards to that. But again, I didn't want to be on this webinar today and just highlighting everything that we're doing good, because we are doing some great things with the SBA. But I wanted to be transparent, and then I want to just bring and highlight the Hubzone program, not only for the SBA, but for other federal agency that is participating in that program, where this has been a challenge, folks, with regarding meeting that 3% threshold. Okay, but again, you kind of get a general idea. But however, as a plus, you can see all the dollar amounts are still in the billion category, the $1 billion category. So that's a good thing as well. Okay. Okay. So what we have here is the Hubzone program contracting activity. Again, this is just kind of some more improvements and some success stories that have taken place. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I do want to just kind of highlight bullet number 3. This was just launched in 2020. This is a part of the streamlining process for those that have a desire to go and make application for the Hubzone program. We have an early engagement initiative that is in a pilot program right now, and actually that pilot program should be going through the end of this month. And so we are listening feedback, and we'll get feedback in terms of how that has been, how that has gauged so far up to this point. And that's a great initiative, and I'm hoping that it, you know, once it come out of the pilot stage, that it will be a mainstay that's a part of helping to expedite Hubzone contracts, Hubzone application into the Hubzone program. Okay, and I do got a slide coming up here and telling you how long it takes to get the Hubzone certification. Okay. Under this EEI initiative, okay, we are enlisting and mobilizing more of our resource partners, our SBA district office, our PCRs, Procurement Center Representatives, PTAC, okay, centers, as well as small business development center, okay, for the folks like where Tim is at. Okay, Tim are at the Small Business Development Center are going to be more armed to help you put structure and put together your application for it to get expeditedly processed. Okay, so you want to make sure you reach out to those resources. Okay, to get assistance with completing your application for the Hubzone program. Okay. And you can see where it's highlighted there in yellow. It will help applicants navigate the certification process more smoothly. Okay, that has not always been the case, and it's been a little bit ambiguous, if you will. But we're hoping through the EEI initiative that can smooth that and where it can become a lot more less ambiguity, if you will, in terms of getting your application through that process. Okay, so we're hoping for some good things to come out of it. And right now, it's in a pilot stage right now that's due to end at the end of this month. And so we'll gather that feedback in terms of how we've been faring with that, and then we will adjust, pivot as we need to with regards to that. But understand that you have help out there to help you put together your Hubzone application should you have a desire to come into the Hubzone program. Okay. All right. Okay, let me go back here. Hubzone geographical areas, okay. Base closures areas will be eligible for at least 8 years. That was not always the case. These are some of the geographical areas that we're trying to improve upon. Okay, and I think and so far it's been doing really, really well, and a lot of folks have welcomed these much needed changes, if you will. But again, the jury's still out, and again, we will pivot if we need to. We will adjust if we need to. Okay. Bullet number 2: changes will be published online every 5 years. Remember, I talked to you about that. Once the Hubzone map becomes not frozen, because right now at this point they're frozen until such time when they're no longer frozen, then they will be looked at every 5 years as opposed to every 1 year. Okay, so right now you're in a good position. Okay, because if an area has been designated as a Hubzone, it will stay designated as a Hubzone area at least up until June of 2023. Okay, and then at such time you'll get notifications when a redesignation is going to take place, and then obviously you want to go back to that interactive map to ensure that your area is still considered a designated Hubzone area. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. Also, the initiative under the geographical area, one of the improvements is now governors for each state can petition the SBA for designated Hubzone designations. Okay, and it's based upon, as it's outlined there, that governors can now petition the SBA for areas that may not have been picked up by the SBA as a Hubzone area. Okay, the governor can do that on each state's behalf. Okay, so that's a new improvement that was not always the case. Okay. All right, Hubzone eligibility determination. Okay. All righty. Bullet number 1 here: the cycle time for processing initial eligibility determination will be reduced from 90 days, folks, to now 60 days. Okay. And believe it or not, 30 days can make a huge difference. Okay. So now we're at 60 days, and sometimes they're getting done quicker than that, depending upon how well put together your package is. Okay. Recertification. This takes place once you're in the program. A recertification will take place. Okay. So that's the information with regards to that. But for those that have a desire or have piqued their interest for going into the Hubzone program, just understand the initial eligibility determination has been reduced from 90 days to 60 days. Okay, there will be an analyst that will be vetting your application. So it's not a computer, okay, or a robot that is vetting your application. You have an SBA analyst that will be vetting your application. Okay, so help them to help you by putting together a complete application where you're not doing the piecemealing, because all that does is slows down the time in terms of getting a determination on your application. Okay, so keep that in mind, folks. Okay. Hubzone rule for residency. Okay, remember I shared with you in terms of residence, your employees, 35% of your employees must reside in a designated Hubzone area. Okay, and this is some of the criteria for that. Okay, a resident meaning that you know they must be full time and residing in a designated Hubzone area for at least 180 days prior to the application. Okay, the initial application. And remember, you count as an employee as well for the residency purposes. Okay. Also, there's voters registration documents that we will look at, driver license, leases, things like that, and you'll get a set of instructions on what you need to do in order to put a check in the box with regards to the residency in terms of employees residing in a designated Hubzone area. Okay, I just kind of put this information on there so you can just kind of have a glimpse, if you will, in terms of what's all involved with that. Okay. Once you gain access and get approved to come into the Hubzone program, you will be due what we term as a Hubzone site visit, and then you also, from previous slide, that you will be due for a recertification. Okay. Now, with regards to recertification, that used to be every 3 years. Now, you will be recertified every 1 year. Okay. A part of the Hubzone site visit, you will have a SBA representative to come out to your place of business to verify that you're still in a Hubzone area. But because we are right now, in the midst of the pandemic, now we're doing those site visits virtually, okay, until such time that we find ourselves no longer in the pandemic, and then we will resume conducting those in person. Okay, but you don't need to be concerned about that now. You don't need to be concerned about that once you gain access into the Hubzone program. But I just want to just kind of put that information out there on the slide so you can kind of get an idea of that, what's involved with that. Okay, on the front end as well as on the back end while you're in the Hubzone program. Okay. Okay. Here's the rules for the Hubzone rule for recertification, which I just talked about from the previous slide there. It is no longer every 3 years now, it's done every year, okay? Again, you don't need to worry about that on the initial application. This only comes into play once you're in the Hubzone program, okay? All righty. Probably one of the biggest things right here that I hope that you grab from today's presentation, and we're near the end of this of the presentation here on today. And folks, I need for you to take note of this. If you can just take a picture of it, if you can, of this information right here, the Hubzone website and checklist. Okay, so Mr. Sloan, what do I need to get? What do I need to get started? Okay, here it is right here. Okay. The website where you can get even more comprehensive over and above what I'm sharing with you here on today from a verbal standpoint, where you can go back and take a look at the website as well as the checklist, what it is that you need in order to start that process for the Hubzone certification. There it is again, to reemphasize the interactive map. There's the website for that. Okay, if you have specific questions, okay, it will behoove you to put those in a question in an email and email that to the program office, okay, to get your answers to that. Okay. Now, I am for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the Hubzone liaison, okay. And I'm gonna provide my information here at the end, where you can reach out to me. But I'm gonna tell you right now, it is always better to go to the source. In this case, we're speaking about the program office out of Washington, D.C., to field any questions that you may have with regards to the Hubzone certification. And do not forget, remember, you got your resource partners like the SBDC, the folks with Tim them, that can be able to assist you, as well as going back to the main landing page for the Hubzone can be able to assist you where you don't feel like you're out there all by yourself trying to get this, to navigate through it and get it completed. Okay. And then finally, which is probably the highlight of all of this, okay, the program office, the Hubzone program office, does an open call twice a week, folks. Okay, where you can get questions, comments, answers directly from the source, from the program office. Okay, there's the phone number and the access code. Okay, they do that every Tuesday and Thursday, 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. I know I got to share it up here and it's depicted at 2 p.m. Eastern, but that's if you're on the East Coast. But I don't know where this broadcast or this webinar is being broadcasted to. So understand, just make sure you do it according to your time zone, okay? And again, that is the phone number as well as the access code to get in there. And folks, you can't get it any better than that, where you can be able to talk directly to the program office on comments, and the structure of that is based upon the number of comments, and a question will guide that session for Tuesday and Thursdays. Okay, so if they don't get very many comments or questions, then they will discontinue and pick back up on the following time that that they will hold the open call. So keep that in mind. So if you can, if you did, and I know many of you probably can't write fast enough before I have to move forward with the next slide here, but if you can take a picture of it, please do so, okay? Because it's some good information right here. Okay. Also, too, the Hubzone program will be remiss if it didn't have proper guidance and regulations that govern it. Okay. So again, here's a snapshot, okay, of what is putting the Hubzone in place, if you will, the regulatory policies and things that is guiding it. So here it is, just for FYI, so you can just kind of have a working knowledge of what is governing the Hubzone program. Okay, the improvements that I talked about, you can see that depicted there. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it has the references there, okay, to back up. And remember, the Hubzone program has been in existence since 1997. So again, we're coming up on 25 years next year that the Hubzone program has been in existence, okay? All right, here's something else that is very important, folks. Okay, identifying contracting opportunities to include the Hubzone as well as any other contracting opportunity at the federal government level. Okay, hopefully many of you have heard about SAM, which stands for Systems Award Management. Okay, in order for a contract to be awarded to your company, you must have a SAM registration on file. Okay, there's a website to start that process. Okay, you will not be awarded a contract if you do not have a SAM registration active. Okay, again, make sure you have that in place. Okay, and again, you will not be awarded a contract if you do not have a SAM registration active. Okay, where do you go look, Mr. Sloan, for a contracting opportunity? Some of you may know this already, some may not, but here it is again. This is where you go look for contracting opportunities at the federal government level. Okay, it used to be FBO or FedBiz Ops. It is now new name. It is called beta.sam.gov. That's where you go look for contracting opportunities at the federal government level. Also, every contracting opportunity that is posted in that portal, okay, at beta.sam.gov, the dollar amount associated for each and every contract that is publicized there is at $25,000 or higher. You will not see a contracting opportunity at beta.sam.gov below $25,000. Okay, so understand that when you go to that portal, that this is only for the federal government, not city, not state, not local, but only federal government opportunities, contracting opportunities. That also include Hubzone, okay, and the various other types of certification designations that are there, okay? And remember, this is where the masses go to look. But if you have these particular designations or certifications, that puts you in a smaller pool because not everybody or the masses would have that particular certification. In this case, we're speaking about Hubzone. So Hubzone certification opportunities are in beta.sam.gov as well, okay? So kind of keep that in mind. That's where you go look for contracting opportunity over and above Hubzone, but also to include Hubzone. Resources, okay? Please make note of these resources, okay? PTAC, okay, which is going to be a part, which is a part of the early initiative program that we got going in terms of assisting would-be or potential Hubzone candidates to come into the program. You can be able to get assistance from them. Small Business Development Center, which is the host, if you will, of today's presentation. You can tap on them for assistance. For Tim's location can be able to assist you with that. SCORE, which stands for Service Corps of Officer Retired Executives. The folks there can be able to assist you with that. And also VBOC, for those that have served in the military, okay, from veteran standpoint. These are resources that can help aid you not only for Hubzone certification, but for any other certifications that may be out there. And they offer many other services and resources, but just reach out to them, folks, because the SBA can't drive the ship all by ourselves. So we have resource partners that helps us guide this along, if you will. Okay, so these are the resources, and Ken, take a snapshot of this, okay, and reach out to them. The folks are over there. Most, if not all, are very seasoned at what they're doing, so they're not green in terms of what they're doing there, in terms of services they're providing, and a lot of them are paying it forward. Okay, so reach out to them, folks. Okay, and there's the websites for each of those resource partners. Okay. Okay. Hubzone webinars, okay? Hopefully I didn't bore you too much on today's, but there's other Hubzone webinars that you can be able to take advantage of, okay? Over and above what we're doing here on today, and a lot of these are offered through YouTube, okay? And if you can, please make note of those websites to be able to get to those, okay? It's a host of information, and again, we're in that rebranding, rebranding mode, if you will. And we just want to make sure we just get a lot of the information out to our would-be participants. Okay. And folks, we're at the end here. Questions that you may have, and we can go back over here and take a look in the chat box if I can be able to navigate that properly. Tim, I don't know if you might be online, or either you or Jason may be on the line. Might need to get your assistance with some help with that, sirs, respectively. But again, any questions, comments, I'm open to that. And even though we're coming up right about a minute before end time, but I will allow a few minutes to entertain any questions and or comments that you may have. Okay. And while we're doing that, folks, let me go ahead and just progress to the next screen here. Here's my contact information. Okay. Should you need to reach out to me, and as I stated to you, I am the Hubzone liaison for the Dallas-Fort Worth District Office. Okay, any questions pertaining to the Hubzone, okay, you can start them with me, and if I can't get them answered for you, then we will simply source you to the program office. Okay, and I provided that information to you where you can go to them directly as well. Okay, that's my contact information. Likewise, we'd like to also try to just get your feedback. If you can take a minute to give us some feedback in terms of what we did good, what we did not do good, things that we can maybe improve upon, we're open to that. And I must tell you, we have thick skin, folks. So don't worry about, insulting or anything like that. Obviously, the benefit behind it is to make sure we put out a good, solid product to the general public with regards to our resources that we have available. And I'm sure the SBDCs with Tim and Jason, they have that same information as well. Okay. And we're available on all social media platforms. Please visit with us there as well, in terms of getting information out through those through those media platforms. Okay. So at this point, Tim or Jason, if you can kind of help assist if we got any questions.
Yeah, it looks like we've got. Yeah, Kevin, looks like we got one question from Michelle, and it was early on, and it said, are there repercussions for not meeting that goal? It appears a goal is different from an enforceable law, and I think she's pertaining to government entities hitting that 3% of contracts being awarded to hub zones. Yeah, and I think SBA fell short, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So what are the repercussions for that?
Yeah, and Michelle, and that's an excellent question that you presented there, and that is with regards to remember those contracting goals that I alluded to you guys. Those are more or less internally. Okay, so you don't have to be concerned with that in terms of meeting that 3%. That's internally for the federal agencies that are participating in the federal hub zone. If you recall, I stated to you that there could be a possibility that the program could be done away with because we can't either meet or exceed the threshold of 3%. And again, one might say, and many may have said, or is saying that 3% should be very doable. But folks, it's been a challenge. And we're working on it as we speak right now. Again, this is a high visibility. I mean, this is front and center, if you will, in terms of resurgence with regards to the Hubzone program. But again, Michelle, the 3% threshold has nothing. You don't need to be concerned with that as a potential or to the general public. That's more or less in-house.
Yeah, Kevin, I can add a little bit to that because, of course, we receive funding and we have goals that we have to hit, and sometimes those aren't met. So periodically, and I would say that certainly there's no hard and fast penalty that's inked. But I assure you, it gets reviewed by the people above you if you did not hit those goals, or if your particular organization did not hit those goals. And then, if that happens over a period of time, then things are looked at. Why aren't you hitting those goals? And then there's a lot more focus put towards that. And I suspect that the reason we have Kevin here today, and he's been, there's been a concerted effort to reach out to folks and get more people involved in getting this certification, is a direct result of some of those goals not being hit. And so, one of the problems I suspect has been that there's just not a lot of people with this certification that are going after government contracting. I mean, this is not this isn't something just anybody can do, or 50% of the population, these are very specific areas and very specific criteria. So if you meet those things, you certainly need to, I would really encourage you to get this certification, particularly if you're going to do any kind of government contracting, or if you're going to do any kind of government contracting, consider relocating and hiring within these areas.
Well said, Tim. Well said. Well said. And again, and not to belabor the point, yes, as Tim just articulated, at least from the federal government standpoint, at some point you get called on the carpet and saying, okay, how come you're not meeting that? Do you have aggressive measures in terms of how you're going to overcome that? And again, a lot of that is internally. So you guys, as the general public, as business entrepreneurs, owners, that is not something you really need to be concerned with, other than if you can be in terms of messaging, and champion the program and getting the word out, and hopefully that will be the case, and it can yield some positive, resolutions with regards to that we can either meet or exceed. Okay, going forward with the Hubzone program. I hope that answers your question, Michelle. If not, we'd be more than happy to elaborate if you need us to do that as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine that if all things were equal, with the exception of you having a Hubzone certification, that you wouldn't get the contract. Obviously, there's a lot of other factors that go into awarding contracts, but I can't imagine if that would not be a deciding factor, and if not give you some slight advantage having that certification. Just because I suspect SBA is not the only government entity that has difficulty meeting that 3% goal, and I assure you, everybody looks at those things. They want to hit those goals. They want to do those things. Not to the extent of sacrificing the quality of what's done, but if all things are equal, you're certainly going to get the benefit.
Yes, sir. Good point. Good point, Tim. Very good point. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Do we have any other questions or comments, Tim?
It does not seem. Just a couple of comments. Wow, great information. Thank you, Kevin. And that was from Terrell. Thanks for for all the great information. Greatly appreciated. That was from Walter. And that's about it. So
very good. Very good. Very
good. There's nothing else, Kevin. I'd just like to thank you for your time, and we can call this one a wrap. And once again, you can contact either myself or Jason at your local SBDC, or if some of you guys are outside of Central Texas, you can contact the SBDC in your area, or Kevin gave you a lot of contact information for SBA as it relates specifically to this program. And so I just want to thank you again, Kevin. It was great information, wonderful deal. And Kevin, if it's okay with you, I think I had this thing recorded. So if I can post this up on our center's YouTube channel, so that because we had a lot of people that weren't able to access it that registered, would that be okay with you?
Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. Great. Yes, sir. And then if you don't mind too, Tim, and even though this could be, you know, potentially offline, if you will, sir, that recording, if you can just also send that to me, to us here at SBA, and then we can make sure we get that out there too, and put that on our website as well. That'll work. And gentlemen, Tim, as well as Jason, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to present here on today. Look forward to many more other times. And then we at SB definitely extend the olive branch out to you guys should you need us to help you guys out. I've already communicated that to Katrina with regards to that. So we're here. I stand ready to assist, and I greatly appreciate you guys allowing me the opportunity, or the SBA, the opportunity to be able to present here on this very important matter, that being the Hubzone program.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.